The Legend of Zelda has been one of Nintendo's flagship franchises for decades. It's a name almost anyone can recognize, from the 1986 classic to 2017's Breath of the Wild. Each release comes out to massive financial success and spectacular critical acclaim. Everyone knows that the Zelda games are famous for their action-packed gameplay, its beautiful atmosphere, and riveting storytelling. But what we're focusing on today is one of the franchise's most peculiar and interesting pieces of reading material: The Legend of Zelda Timeline. Hi, I'm Josh James from Laughlot Gamers, and today I'd like to invite you to take a look at one of the greatest chapters in the Nintendo pantheon. Zelda, unlike your typical Nintendo romp, has a long and curated branching timeline that separates into three distinct realities. The root of Hyrule's history splits at a key point in a particular moment, in which the hero of time, Link from Ocarina of Time, is either defeated in battle in his quest to save Hyrule, leading to the events of the franchise's earliest entries in the Downfall timeline. Another, where upon defeat of Ganon, he is sent back to the past to relive his childhood. This is the branch in which we see at the end of the Ocarina of Time game from 1998. And a third branch, in the future, where the world is left without a hero, and Ganon returns, leaving the goddesses hopeless with naught but the choice to flood the lands of Hyrule, leading us to the adult timeline, with Wind Waker and its subsequent sequels. Understanding this timeline can be a grand task in itself. Today we'll take a tour through a small but important piece of Zelda history, and form our own branch firmly in the franchise's child timeline. But before that, let's shine a little light on the subject of today's video. We'll be taking a look at the cult classic and fan favorite Majora's Mask, directed by Eiji Aonuma and Yoshiaki Koizumi. Majora's Mask was released on April 27th in the year 2000 for the Nintendo 64. Later, on the Nintendo GameCube in 2003. The game was met with great success, and became one of the best-selling games in the year 2000. Selling over 3 million copies worldwide and grossing over $100 million in revenue, the game won multiple awards and nominations for its game design and action-packed gameplay. The game was later re-released for the Wii in 2009, and again in 2016 for the Wii U under the Virtual Console services. The game's latest release came in 2015 with an enhanced remake for the Nintendo 3DS, with yet another release for Nintendo Switch Online in 2022. It's impossible to argue that this Zelda game has become a true classic. Before we get to the main course and the reason why you clicked on this video in the first place, let us first immerse ourselves in the roots of the story that will give way to a new tale. We will start with the beginning of our journey, with the story of Majora's Mask. Our story takes place in the land of Termina. Termina is a parallel version of the land of Hyrule, created from the memories of our antagonist combined with the power of our titular artifact of evil, Majora's Mask. Shortly after its conception, our hero Link with his trusted steed Epona traveled to the Lost Woods in search of his lost friend, the fairy Navi, his partner and trusted ally during his journey through time in the world-renowned classic, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. During his search, Link is attacked by the nefarious Skull Kid, accompanied by the two fairies Tattle and Tail. In this encounter, Link loses the royal artifact, the Ocarina of Time, and his horse, Epona. After a chaotic chase, Link stumbles and falls into a great tree that houses the passage to the world of Termina. Once Link reached the bottom, he was met by the Skull Kid. Floating in a mysterious light posed for mischief, the Skull Kid relishes in telling Link that he had discarded his horse Epona, leaving him stranded in this strange new place. Skull Kid, drunk with newfound power, proclaims his place atop the pecking order and places a terrible curse upon our hero. After a nightmarish vision of being consumed by a member of the race of the Dekus, Link awakens to a reflected image, not of his own, but that of a Deku scrub. Skull Kid abandons Link in a fit of laughter, leaving him trapped inside the great tree, and unbeknownst to the Skull Kid, his fairy friend, Tattle. Tattle, being a fairy, is powerless to escape the predicament on her own, so she, along with Link, escape into a mysterious winding passage to the great clock tower of Termina. Upon arrival at the clock tower, our two heroes meet a strange man, known to history as the Happy Mask Salesman. What one could describe as a strange entity of unknown origin and power, pleads with Link to retrieve Majora's mask from the forest imp known as Skull Kid. In exchange for the mask, he promises to lift the curse placed on Link and return him to his true form, if he can take back the Ocarina of Time and the Majora's mask from the Skull Kid. The Happy Mask Salesman warns that he is a very busy man and would be leaving the town after 3 days' time. Link, without hesitation, accepts the quest and begins his search for the Skull Kid. After acquainting himself with the town and its inhabitants, and a brief run-in with the town Great Fairy, Link gains new abilities and earns the trust of the local gang of children that call themselves the Bombers. With this newfound connection, he gains access to the town observatory, where he looks through a telescope to find the Skull Kid waiting atop the very clock tower in which he started his search. Skull Kid directs Link's gaze towards the moon, where up to now had been thought to be a harmless light in the night sky, had now been slowly approaching the Earth. A fearsome-looking meteor of destruction, with a face so terrifying it had many of the town's biggest doubters quivering with fear. But in that very moment, a small piece of debris came falling from the sky. The piece that had landed was in fact a moon's tear, a rare and highly coveted item amongst the town's people. This shining stone was exactly what Link needed to gain access to the top of the clock tower. One of the local residents, a Deku merchant stationed in front of the tower, had ownership of a Deku flower, which Link had used in his escape from the Great Tree. But there was yet another obstacle. The tower only opens on midnight of the town festival, just hours before the town would meet its ultimate doom. On midnight of the final day, the passage would open to Link and Tattle. When our heroes reached the top, they were met once again by Skull Kid and the fairy Tail in tow. Link, once again taunted by the Skull Kid, in a sudden receives a warning from the fairy Tail at his side. Swamp, mountain, ocean, and canyon. Hurry. The four who are there, bring them here. We later discover these four to be the Guardians of Termina, also known as the Four Giants. In a brief scuttle with Skull Kid, Link reacquires the Ocarina of Time. But all seemed hopeless. The moon was still falling, and there appeared to be nothing they could do to stop it. But in a moment of silence, Link remembers his last conversation with the young Princess Zelda. If something should happen to you, remember this song. In a moment that felt like an eternity, Link hears a faint voice. The goddess of time is protecting you. If you play this song, she will aid you. Link is then snapped back to reality by his new companion Tattle. And in a cry for help to the goddess of time, Link, bearing the mysterious instrument known as the Deku Pipes, plays the Song of Time, and is encompassed in a warm white glow. In a fall from runic clocks circling the two in rapid descent, the two quickly reawaken to the dawn of the first day in Termina, just outside the clock tower doors. Everything has started over. Like magic, the events that had transpired over the last 3 days had been completely erased. Link, with the Ocarina of Time in hand, Tattle recalls that the Happy Mask salesman had promised to return Link to his original form, if he could reacquire his stolen property. Upon their visit to the strange salesman, Link would learn the Song of Healing. This song would be one of Link's greatest tools in his adventure, as it healed lost spirits, turning them into masks, in which our hero Link could take on their mortal form. The salesman, believing the task was done, had requested Majora's mask from our hero, in which he had promised. But he did not have the Majora's mask. In a sudden, the salesman went mad with hysteria, and pleaded with Link that great doom would befall the land if the mask wasn't retrieved. Link knew the stakes. He had seen the power of the mask before, so without hesitation, being the hero that he was, he committed to his initial promise, once again, that he would save this land and its people. This is where the rest of the events of the original game would play out as they were written. Now that we've familiarized ourselves with the subject of today's video, let us get to the real reason why you clicked on this video in the first place. Today, we discuss the possibility: what if Link failed to stop the moon in Majora's Mask? In the original Child timeline, Link rescued the 4 giants from their prisons guarded by the possessed icons which guarded their temples, and freed the lands and their peoples. With the power of the 3 masks, Deku, Goron, and Zora attained from healing the souls of each race's respected members and patriarchs. Link, with the remains of the 4 beasts and the giants at his command, everything was in place to defeat Skull Kid and save the land from its terrible fate. But in this story, things are about to change, both the fate of the world and that of our heroes. Link, over the course of his journey, had faced many trials, faced many foes, and helped all of the land's peoples. In time, the moment would come where Link and Tattle would return to the Clock Tower and play the Oath to Order, and summon the 4 Guardians of Termina. Here, events would play out similarly to the original game. The giants would appear to stop the moon. Skull Kid, in a fit of hysteria, would struggle to maintain control, and the world would sit still for a moment while Skull Kid falls to the ground. He was unconscious. The giants holding the moon firm and strong would stop the pending doom. Everything came to a halt. In that moment, the day was saved. Tattle and Tail would reunite once more, and the people could breathe easy, knowing their world was saved. Or so they thought. A sinister laugh could be heard amongst the happy sounds of the people in the distance, and the tense discussion happening between the fairy siblings.
I've watched you all this time, and I've learned exactly what you've been doing, bringing hope to these people time and time again, only for your work to be undone when you play that horrible song. While you've been off playing hero, I've devised a plan to wipe this land clean. It's their hope. I'll snuff out every light of hope this world has and plunge this world into chaos.
Dark energy draws loose all of the masks that he had acquired throughout his journey. With a cry, Majora yells,
"There is no need for such hideous toys!"
The masks shatter. Screams of horror can be heard as the masks split into pieces. All of the hopes and dreams of Termina's people were snuffed out in an instant. The sky grows dark.
You're coming with me, hero.
A beam of energy pools into the open mouth of the moon. A threatening whisper caresses his ear.
You will watch as I destroy all that you hold dear in this world.
A brief moment of silence hangs by a thread, only to be cut by a soul-shattering statement.
I will consume everything!
The moon begins heavily accelerating. The giants begin to buckle under the pressure. An aura of flame and dark energy surrounds the moon. The giants can't take it. The people look on in horror at what is happening. And from a distance, an explosion of rock and flame rupture throughout the land. Link watches in horror as the world he knows is destroyed before his eyes. All is lost. Heat surrounds his body for a moment, and then nothing. Termina is destroyed. Any hope of saving this world from the savage fury of Majora is gone. The remains of what was once a beautiful world filled to the brim with life and hope was now but a shallow desert of sand and moon rock. And at the center of it all, the cursed slumbering body of Majora. Many centuries pass. The ruin that has consumed the world left the people with barely enough to carry on. Small settlements have formed amongst the wastelands. It seems like humanity rested on the edge of a knife. But what Majora could never have anticipated was a much more powerful curse laid down eons ago.
My hate never perishes. It is born anew in a cycle with no end. I will rise again. Those like you, those who share the blood of the goddess and the spirit of the hero, they are eternally bound to this curse.
Link, the hero cursed to an endless cycle of reincarnation by the Demon King demise at the very roots of history, is reborn once again. Hey everyone, this is the first part of a multi-part series, so if you enjoyed the video and you're interested in more videos like this one, please consider subscribing with notifications turned on to find out right when the next theory arrives on the channel. Don't forget to leave a comment and let us know your thoughts on the video as well as what series you want to see us tackle next. Also, if you're interested, please feel free to come check out our content over on Laughlog Gamers. We're a little tongue-in-cheek Let's Play channel, but we definitely fit into more of a mature podcast style more than a traditional Let's Play. That's all for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video, and have a marvelous day.